Hey everyone, my name's Scott Tarbox. I'm an artist working and living in Houston, Texas, and today we're doing a new series. I've had a handful of comments from people asking questions on certain videos. I figured that I might as well use the fact that I've been doing art full time for 5 years now as an opportunity to share what I know. So today we're discussing 5 tips for aspiring full-time artists. Little disclaimer real quick, I am just some guy who stumbled my way into an art career after failing a lot at first. I don't claim to be an expert. I'm speaking on the things that worked for me. If you have any feedback or disagree with anything I say, feel free to leave a comment and let me know. Tip 1, collaborate.
You son of a...
The first tip is one that has many applications, and that is to collaborate. Whether you're a YouTuber, collaborating with other content creators, working on a mural with another artist, or working with brands to get your art on merchandise, this is a really good way to get new eyes on your work. One thing I don't recommend is chasing after people that you don't already have a relationship with that are distinctly more well-known than you. This might not necessarily backfire, but it can rub people the wrong way and come off as you just trying to get something from them. I would recommend either asking people that you've already developed a relationship with or people with similar skill level or audience size. This way it's more of a cross-pollination of audiences rather than one person chasing clout through the other one. There are exceptions to this, but I recommend using discretion and trying to be as courteous as possible. With murals specifically, I've mainly done it with people I already knew or people whose styles I thought would work really well. One of the more recent examples is a wall I did in Chicago back in 2021 with Suburban Warrior. The wall was sponsored by Trueborn Gallery and we spent about a week on it. It's a long winding snake and then there's some orbs in different areas full of animals that would typically be snake prey. And then I did the majority of the snake except for those animals and the orbs and then these tubes that we filled with like this ethereal jelly, and I think it came out super dope. That mural ended up being one of my favorites of 2021. I think it really showcases both of our strengths. Collaborating like that can be a great way to learn your strengths as an artist. Make sure you check out Suburban Warrior and Trueborn Gallery. Their socials will be in the description down below as well as right here. Now when I say collaborating with brands, that can be tricky because there are a lot of different contexts in which you can work with them, but I specifically mean that when doing a freelance job or a commission for a brand, also trying to maybe sell them the rights or do a royalty option if they want to use that artwork on other merchandise or branding. For example, I did 5 murals for a rock climbing gym back in 2018, and then they wanted to make t-shirts off of those same designs. At the time, I ended up just taking a flat rate. I'd probably do royalties now, but I was still learning, and that's something that moving forward, I try to work in whenever I can. It's a great way to get your stuff advertised, but just make sure you get paid for it. Tip number 2, diversify.
Pyramid scheme at a timeshare or diversifying our portfolio.
The next tip is to diversify, and it's probably something you've heard before, but in my experience, it's something that's always proven to be true. I followed this rule from the moment that I started taking art seriously, and it helped me then, but it's helped me even more recently. I started out mostly making paintings, but realized pretty quickly that the price point wasn't always accessible to people, so I got a drawing tablet, and then pretty quickly, after adopting a digital form of media, started making stickers, prints, shirts, everything I could to make my art more accessible to people of all income levels. I did all the little merchandising things like winter markets, pop-ups at bars, pop-ups at Sunday markets, anything I could to sell my work, as well as painting commissions and mural commissions, but none of it paid the bills entirely. In late 2016, I finally took the advice of one of my collectors and made my first enamel pin. The first few I made, I only made about 100 and they took a few months to sell out. I think it was 3 that I made before releasing the Chameleon. And then that summer I released this pin, the Chameleon, and there was a surge of interest online. And then when it finally dropped, it sold out within a few seconds. It sold out so quickly that people were angry that I didn't make more, and that actually turned into me doing 2 pin drops a month that all pretty much sold out for the better part of 3 years. Suddenly, I was a full-time artist. Mural work was a bit inconsistent, feast and famine, but pins were a reliable and consistent source of income, and I was able to quit my job. Even though pins were the main way I made my money, I kept doing murals and I kept trying to grow in other avenues and didn't want to rely only on them. And it's a very good thing that I did, because as of summer of 2021, relying only on pins wasn't an option. There is still a market and it is still technically profitable for me, but it's nowhere near what it used to be because the main market and especially the secondary market has just gotten so much smaller. I read the writing on the wall about a year before this happened, and around that time started considering YouTube.
We're making a YouTube movie.
And taking more commissions. Around this time I also met Ten Hun and Kipto at different mural festivals, both super friendly, awesome, encouraging dudes who seem to really love what they do and encourage more people to do it. I decided I really wanted this to be my next move, even if it would mean that I would be doing it for a while before I got paid doing it. Soon after stumbling through my first couple videos, I realized that I love this. It's so much fun. It's a new way to express myself. And I've been really fortunate because demand for my murals and commissions has skyrocketed this year as my pins have dipped into not very profitable. This isn't to brag or say it's so great, but just to show an example of one of the many ways that one area of your career might be thriving while another is dormant, and you never know if it's going to come back, but that's all part of how it ebbs and flows. And in my experience, you have to be willing to adapt to these changes in order to succeed. Because if I had thought back in the day, man, pins are making me all this money, I'll just quit murals because all this money from pins. Right now, I'd be looking for a regular job probably, but I've kept doing those other things and they've turned into more reliable avenues of income, and it's led me to this new journey of doing video. Tip number 3, make a Patreon.
It's not even a scheme per se.
I meet a lot of artists who've been considering Patreon for a long time, and my advice is to just do it. It doesn't take a ton of time to set up, and you can modify or adjust it as you learn what works best for you. I do recommend taking the time to plan out tiers so it's all cohesive and makes sense, but you can always add or remove stuff later. When I started my Patreon, I actually had a raffle-like system that was a giveaway of one small original once a month, and it was luck-based, and it actually got my Patreon shut down as a form of gambling, and I lost several patrons because the primary reason that they joined was for a chance to win this each month. Cut to a couple years later, and I found a workaround, which is it can't be luck-based, but it can be merit-based. So I set up a system to where the first person who comments when I post the photo of it is the one who wins it. Everybody's eligible, from the $3 a month people to the $50 a month people, and it's a new draw for people to join the Patreon. I started my Patreon when I wasn't really doing videos yet, so most of mine is product-based. I do one new design every month that I turn into stickers and prints, as well as give people 10% discount on my shop that month that they signed up, early access to some videos, and then I do secret drops once a month at least that I announce on Patreon first. Then there's also the giveaway. Other people might focus on content, streams, one-on-one tutorials, Q&As. There's tons of different ways to approach how you engage with your patrons, but it's a great way to get an extra guaranteed monthly income, and I'm really glad that I have mine. Tip 4, be professional. Professionalism is something that I've learned over the years, and I still make mistakes on. It's something that I'm constantly learning and improving on. A big part of success for me as a full-time artist has been referrals. So while it's important not to be a doormat or get taken advantage of, I've found that it's also in your best interest to make sure that your clients, organizers, gallery owners, etc., all have somewhat of a pleasant experience or are left with a good impression of you. Where to draw certain lines is up to you, but I think it's worth considering that being rude or unprofessional or difficult to work with can be the deciding factor when certain people are considering whether they want to come back to you or refer somebody to you. Things like showing up on time, meeting deadlines, having contracts, taking deposits for multiple stages of the project, communicating well, adhering to your mock-ups, having specific guidelines for how you quote projects, being clean during installations, showing up to installations with everything you need, and being able to show a timeline for your process. All these things can go a long way. I've had many clients that seem shocked and impressed by things I did that I thought were commonplace, and I've had people hire me for lucrative jobs over other people just because they were difficult to work with. Selling yourself or projecting a level of confidence also ties into this. Sometimes professionalism means saying no or refusing to discuss concepts or sketches until a price is agreed upon. It's definitely a case of straddling a line between not wasting your own time and also not alienating potential clients by being too rigid or standoffish. Picking up and practicing terms for professionalism will save you headaches and help keep boundaries and expectations clear for all your projects. I'm planning a future video called 5 Ways to Avoid Getting Taken Advantage of as an Artist, or a better title. I don't know if I came up with that. If I made it already, it'll be up here. I wonder if the title is better than what I just said. Tip number 5, murals.
Me is out on the loose again at McDonald's.
All right, so the last section is specifically for people who do murals or have an interest in doing murals, or maybe not. Maybe you've never thought about doing murals till right now as I'm saying this. Who knows? The possibilities are endless. Anyway, I touched on this a bit in my Veil video where I painted in the Rockies, but I will go into more detail. Put simply, doing murals gets people to notice your work more reliably than social media or entry-level galleries. If no one knows your work, one of the best ways, in my experience, is to do murals in high traffic areas where they'll stay up for quite a while. Early in my career, this meant finding walls that I really wanted, approaching the owners and then trying to sell them on a mural for it, and if they weren't interested, then pitching them to just pay for supplies, but allowing me to maintain creative freedom on whatever I wanted to do. And then worst case scenario, if I'm really striking out with both of those, then offering to do it for free. Now the doing it for free part comes with a big caveat, because I don't want to ever promote doing work for free, especially for people who own businesses that are going to get more traffic because of your art. I have made exceptions and done stuff for free, but it has been on my terms, and that's a really important part. Anyone asking for free work, especially if they stand to profit off of it, that's always a hard no. I mostly did what I'm talking about earlier in my career, but I do still occasionally do it when I'm visiting a new city, because it's a nice way to push a little snowball off a hill and let it build and build and build, because any mural anywhere can turn into a couple of jobs, or it can turn into dozens, like the one I'm working on right now. That's 7 jobs removed from the job I did in Portland, where I only got paid $100 as a stipend, but nobody was making money off of what I did, and it was on my terms, and it's led to lots and lots of other jobs. But yeah, it's a great way to build your portfolio, improve, meet new clients, and even dive into new cities and countries and get paid to travel later. Like most of the things on here, you'll have to use your discretion and decide what circumstances are right for you. It's great to get a big bright mural up on a wall, but I certainly don't encourage anyone to take bad deals just in exchange for exposure. That's it for the tips. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found something helpful. If you have any additional comments or questions, feel free to leave that below. Please, on your way out, feed the algorithm demon a like or subscribe if you're new. Thanks to all my patrons, and I'll see y'all in the next video.